What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Weekend Review for March 9th, 2020. Now, you're probably going to be seeing this on March 10th, as I'm recording this video very late on March 9th. It is just very difficult to prepare for this video each week when I'm in my busy season at my job. So normally I would kind of prepare throughout the week, add notes of SCL or Inside Star Citizen or some posts that have been going on, and I really just am not getting very many breaks at work in order to do that. So for the time being, you might see this video on a Tuesday instead of on a Monday, but in the future, it's always an attempt to get this video out by Monday evening. Now, normally we would start out with the patch notes section, but this time there was no patch, so we're going to replace it with the monthly report. And starting out right away, the monthly report was a little bit lackluster this month. It normally has many sections with huge paragraphs, lots of information to take in, and a lot of those sections this time around were filled with sentences instead of paragraphs. I don't know if it's because Squadron 42 is really on the kind of grind right now, and Star Citizen is just sort of kind of on the back burner, which is what it seems like from the roadmap, that obviously the monthly report might be a little lackluster for a while. Now, starting out right away, we have AI. And AI, they put work in on 3D navigation. Now, this should allow the team to create more content outside of space. That means planetary missions. This allows AI to interact inside of atmosphere and avoid collision and all sorts of things like that. NPCs can now also go above SCM speeds, so if you've ever fought against a NPC bounty, sometimes once the ship gets pretty damaged, they just start flying away from you in one direction very slowly. I think they're trying to run, but they're just not able to go above SCM speed, so that whole situation makes so much more sense now. We're going to skip a lot of sections in this, so starting right away, we're going to skip animation and environment art sections, but as always, the link to the full monthly report will be in the links in the description, so you guys can check these out for yourself. We're going to come back into ship art, where they discuss the M50 cockpit redesign to be a little bit more Origin, and also conforming to the UI metrics and UI changes as well. So there's going to be some things that change with the M50, but they shouldn't be super drastic. They also talked about the Cutlass Blue prisoner pods. Okay, the Aspirator Prowler is obviously being worked on, as we've seen in some recent CIG content. And one thing that really stood out to me here was faction skins. So we see the Ninetales faction skins with the, I guess, teal, greenish, and red skins. So we're going to see some other skins being made. And maybe we can see some inter-faction warfare at some point in the probably distant future, but hopefully in the future. We're also going to skip weapons art and audio to move on to back-end services, where a huge thing sticks out, and that is iCache. So the iCache is actually in its final stages, and I think in some testing, and they added advanced query methods. Not really sure what that means. Pretty technical for me, but the thing about iCache is it's that tech carrot that CIG always tends to carry or hang in front of our faces to say, it's almost here, guys. The gameplay you want is almost here, and iCache is the next one. So seeing that it's kind of in its final stages and hopefully sort of done this year, we can finally find our coffee mug on some planet, and Chris will be very happy about that. Skipping characters and community areas, we move on to design. And this was where work went into hooking up all mission givers to the new subsumption hooks. And maybe they'll work more consistently now. I don't know what that necessarily means for mission givers, but I imagine it's just more along the lines of this Idris mission that we'll talk about a little bit later. They're also prepped food and drink, and progress went into the material economy for Tony Z's Quantum. My assumption is that just means recipes to make certain items in the game, and it is all making sense. Things are starting to come together, but there's so many pieces that I just don't think we're gonna. This 2020 just doesn't seem like a very exciting year. Looking at the roadmap and these monthly reports, we're gonna skip engineering and move on to gameplay features. where obviously person missions are being worked on. And the thing that really sticks out here to me is that there's a multi-quarter task to get the friends list right. My assumption, and this is one of those things where I don't know anything about game development, and I'm trying to learn as I go, so something that my guess would be is that there's so much spaghetti code of friends lists all over the place that it's just really difficult to rein all that information in to one place and have it work together with the game. But it is an important thing to do, as this is a multiplayer game, and this game is just way more fun when playing with friends. So anything to make that easier is a priority for them, and it makes sense that it would be. Now, vehicle features. We have some IFCS stuff being worked on, as well as aerodynamic changes. Just stuff that seems to be more on the planet side of things, but I think most combat pilots and PvPers would agree that space is still an issue as well, and I'd like to see some more talk about that. They also kicked off work on the new Building Blocks UI HUD, which actually has some relation to that statement, where the Building Blocks UI is what seems to be holding back the new combat speeds, as well as other ship combat changes. We're going to skip the graphics section. We're going to move on to level design, where a section here stuck out to me, which was restricted area rework has started. Now, there's lots of discussion about griefing in Star Citizen right now. We will touch on it a little bit later on in the video, but in my opinion, this could potentially help pad ramming issues. I think the idea of the restricted area rework was, a part of it was, as you request landing, you are asked to follow a certain line into the station, and if you stray from that line, the station kind of puts you back into it. And maybe if you're around a area or close to the station, you are required to follow some sort of guideline, whether you're leaving or coming in. And that should probably help resolve a lot of those issues. Now we're going to skip a lot of sections here. We're going to skip lighting, narrative, player relations, props, QA, tech art, and turbulent. Again, link will be in the description. You guys can check out the full post yourselves if any of that stuff interests you. And the last thing we're going to talk about is UI. They're getting rid of the inner thought for this radial menu, it seems like. That sounds very console-y to me, but it's very important that I don't make too many assumptions here, and we know there's going to be a video on it on Inside Star Citizen, so once we see more, I think I can give more of my opinion on it. Now, moving on to roadmap updates, we had a roadmap roundup where Surrender moved from 3.9 to 4.0. It just basically took longer than they expected. Yeah, just like Star Citizen is. Now you need to die to go to prison, and that's the only option. Not that big of a deal, but disappointing that something that they wanted didn't make it in. Something way further down the line, 4.0, they added a space station cargo deck. Now this facility is inside of a rest stop and should deal with all of our cargo needs. So you can drop off and pick up from that area, which is something we can currently do now, but you can also store cargo there, rent space, buy cargo equipment, and get cargo-related missions. Now, those last things are interesting. Storing cargo. That one definitely falls in line with quantum being a thing, the dynamic economy being a thing. So you can kind of look into the future and say, this is where they think the dynamic economy is going to fall. I do not want to look at a 4.1 roadmap and get excited about anything, but this specific subject for me as an economy player, it's hard not to. 3.9 had a few things move into polish. The player interaction system, this radial menu thing that we'll be seeing, player status system version 1, weather locomotion, all 3 microtech moons, and 3D navigation for AI. Now, we had some videos this week, so we're going to go over our video updates, starting out with ISC. We had a lot of mission updates, and the first one is a piracy synced assassination mission with a timer. Very cool.
One of our goals for 3.9 was to introduce a truly multiplayer mission, and by that I mean it isn't multiplayer by the necessity of needing more players because of the difficulty of the enemies, but something that's truly cooperative. The synced assassination mission requires 2 targets to be taken out within a very short space of time.
The important part is the communication between you and the other player. You have to make sure that you attack at the exact same time, because the moment someone even shoots that ship, you have a timer that you have to kill both of them in. If you don't, the other guy warps away and you'll never get it.
Now this is very cool stuff. I absolutely love that you need another player to complete the mission. That's very cool. It's the first mission that requires other players. There's suggested multiplayer missions, but a lot of people have been able to solo them. For example, the 890 jump mission, but this one requires another person. I find that very cool. And this is not the only piracy mission added.
So also for Criminals in 3.9, there's a new mission where players must assault a prison transport ship.
The reason we make unlawful and bad guy missions is just because sometimes it's fun to be a bad guy, and we don't want to force players to do one specific thing. We want to give them the freedom to be who they want to be in the Star Citizen universe. So you'll receive the mission via the mobiGlas. It's come to you via way of Twitch Pacheco. She's got some people that have been caught during a, let's say, illegal business transaction that she wants you to break out of this prisoner transport. So you have to make your way there. It's been rigged to break down midway through the transport. It's down to you to clear the ship convoy that's defending those, EVA your way inside the Caterpillar, and once you've cleared out the security in there, there'll be a prisoner manifest that the player needs to locate. Within that prisoner manifest is prisoner IDs that you have to match up against the ones on the cryotube to find the people to release for her. Once you've done that, you've got to get out of there so that no one knows where you've been. So my favourite aspect of this mission is the way that we've been able to implement a new prop, something that's really unique, into the prisoner manifest. This is combined in some unique content that we haven't seen before, with also new mission logic that we've managed to create. And by combining those, it's going to bring something that should be really fun for the players.
Very cool. Again, lots of different stuff that we haven't seen in missions previously. So it's nice to see them working on new little loops, new little interesting things as far as the mission content goes. There's another mission they've added, but more importantly, there's a ship that a lot of people have been waiting to see in Star Citizen and has been shown quite a few times. And there's a mission related to it. Check it out.
So the Arlington gang have finally done it. They've stolen an Idris.
So the Arlington bounty mission, combined with persistence, allows us to create these missions that will carry on and build up and up over time. So while it starts off small, maybe 1 or 2 people can complete the objectives, eventually the build-up is going to be a real payoff that you guys haven't seen inside Star Citizen before. And when that Idris rolls out, you better be ready for it.
So the reason we're able to do this mission before the full Idris is completed is because it's just the exterior of the Idris with the turrets controlled by AI. So that's going to be really interesting. It's the first time players are going to see the Idris in the game and get to fight it.
This is going to take a real fleet of players. During our playtests, we've had about 9 or 10 retaliators firing torpedoes at this thing. Wasn't having any of it.
It's just chaos. Basically, this thing has so many turrets on it and you need so many friends nearby. Just watching your friends explode at the side and then like quantum traveling again, fire 3 torpedoes and run away. It's just chaos. It's brilliant.
That doesn't mean it's indestructible, but it isn't going to be easy to take this thing down.
You can only play this mission and you can only complete this mission once, I should say. After that, you'll need to find someone who hasn't completed it. And I think this is just going to lead to a lot more like of a community interacting with each other as new players come on who haven't completed this mission and maybe don't know how to start it even. You know, you'll get players who want to go up against the Idris again, teaming up with them, taking them through the first few missions and then, you know, calling on the rest of the server to come and help them take down the Idris finally.
So while the mission's still in its balancing phase, we've had a lot of really good experiences during testing. The cool thing about this is it allows us to lay the groundwork for this type of style mission that we can expand upon moving forwards.
Now, while the whole adding the Idris thing seems really cool, we did talk about this a little bit last week, it has to be done really well. And this mission seems really weird, really hard, you're gonna die a ton and you can only complete it once. We'll see if the community does kind of band together to try and complete these missions like they're saying in the video. I don't know, we'll have to see. Then they did a sprint report, and we'll kind of sprint through it like they do. There's new cargo manifests. Now, this means that there's just different types of cargo inside NPC spawn ships, and when you guys blow up NPC spawn ships, it does drop cargo, the hand cargo that you have to kind of walk in there for right now, and it's kind of a pain in the ass, but it's a thing. The Cutlass blue color is apparently extremely hard to choose. They showed a little bit more of the Asperia Prowler. There is a day-night automatic light system for outposts and things like that being worked on. New Babbage landing clothing, which looks pretty cool, and Wally's bar, which, yeah, it's pretty wild looking. Now, moving on, we had an SCL. Now, this one was all about 3.9. I think a lot of people were fairly disappointed with this video, as most of the things discuss what's not going to be in 3.9 instead of what actually is. Now, the first question asked is, why is there so much desync in the game?
So, it wasn't SOX that caused it. There was a physics issue, and in fact, I had asked. There was a physics proxy refactor that was done, and we had that fix ready for like 3.8.2. However, the code base between 3.8 and 3.9 had changed so much, so we deemed it too risky to actually check it in. So we checked it into 3.9. It's in 3.9. Ideally, we think that fixed the root of the problem, and then if we run into any kind of edge-based issues, we'll go in and fix those case by case. But ideally, most of that has been resolved for that. Now, obviously, there's other factors that play into that, whether that be servers lag or even we kind of have some internal lag built in. So, and we're trying to work those issues out right now to reduce as much latency as possible. We know that it's there. It is a focus of ours because it is a huge quality of life issue that needs to be resolved.
Now, it sounds like it's fixed, hopefully, but there's still some possible underlying issues and edge cases. So we'll have to see what happens with that, but the really obviously bad desync in 3.8.2 will hopefully be resolved with the first patch in 3.9. People asked about player-to-player cash transactions, so being able to say, hey, throw me a few thousand credits and it be easily done, whether it's through the mobiGlas or some other interaction system. And their answer is, it makes sense to me, but I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy about it.
It is. No, it's not. Sorry.
It is a pain point.
It is a pain point. We know that. It's not going to be in 3.9. Basically, we know that we need to refactor the mobiGlas and actually get it into building blocks, and then that allows us to scale. So from my standpoint, that is one of my highest priorities, and I can kind of lay you out the highest priorities from a UI standpoint. So we, on our EU vehicle feature team, we actually have people that are working on the ship HUD and basically moving towards what we need to do, and you start seeing elements of it being moved out, or being not moved out, but being pushed out with each release. So basically the center part of the screen versus the upper corner or the MFDs, we kind of just work through each section, and it's the same thing with the player visor. So basically, right now we have the bottom left-hand corner, which is the actor status, and then from there we'll be doing the mini map, and we'll be doing the weapon section, and we'll be doing mission notifications and tutorials. So basically, we've got the EU vehicle feature team, part of that team working on the ships, and then we've got part of the actor feature team working on the visor, as well as some of the UI feature team to kind of balance between the visor if they need help on those, and then the next thing would be the mobiGlas. So
having to switch over the mobiGlas UI into building blocks is obviously going to be a bit of a task. These steps here make perfect sense. Ship refactors and the helmet refactor should take priority because of the things that are coming, whether it's Squadron 42, Theaters of War, general ship upgrades and combat upgrades are essential. They've been left alone for too long in Star Citizen. But this really makes it clear that UI is still a huge bottleneck, but not because the tech isn't there, it seems like now. It just seems like they're having a hard time getting through the massive backlog that they've created for themselves. Once they get through that backlog, I imagine we might start to see a little bit more of the ball rolling on features coming into the game that require UI, which is pretty much everything. The next thing they talked about was Volatile Cargo. Now, there's been little discussions here and there about it, but not a lot of concrete information on what it is, and this is the best we got out of them on this subject so far.
What we have working right now for Volatile Cargo is based off of the prospector and the mole is, so when you're mining and then let's say your ship gets jostled or based off of what you mine, there's a time associated with it. It will basically become volatile, and so it can destroy your ship or you would have to jettison it.
Now, this really only works for me if they add new types of things to mine, and also the ability to remove cargo from your ship is pretty interesting, him mentioning that, and I'd like to hear more about those two things. And, well, they touch on a possible new mineable right here.
In the case that we have Quantanium, that's supposed to be a volatile fuel, but again, it's risk reward. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is if we just want the player to have those kind of, if you want to go for this, then it's high money, but it's going to be high risk as well.
Quantanium sounds like possible quantum fuel, and its little mini game that's coming with it is pretty neat as well. So who knows, we might be trading quantum fuel to each other and not have to worry about the buggy landing pad system. The next thing they talked about was this player interaction system, which we did talk a little bit about before, which is that radial menu to remove the inner thought system.
How significant would you say the player interaction system improvements are?
Significant. I mean, we're changing. So it really is just the managing of stuff, and the goal is to basically get rid of the PMA. So the idea is the player can go in, select the weapons, select kind of hotkeys associated with those weapons, and do all of that in the player interaction system, and go through and I feel it's a game changer. Just awesome. because of the time that you spend going back and forth between the BMA the PMA and before. Like, I think this is a very, very good change.
Again, this discussion was all very vague because it's a visual thing and they're not showing it to us. So it's going to be not this coming ISC, but the one after, where we're going to see this interaction system. And they talk a little bit more on how this is actually going to work with weapon attachments, which sounds really cool.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we've got just certain attachments that you can add, and it'll just bring up the weapon in front of your face, and then at that point in time, you can choose, all right, do I change out, the sights, or do I add something on the barrel or under barrel, or, so it really is just kind of, we want to make sure that we're showing off the weapon, as well as, the player gets that tactile experience of switching out.
Yeah, it's... when I was talking about when it looked cool, I realized that I was actually talking about the weapon attachment UI. Like, not that the other stuff doesn't look cool with the radial and stuff like that, but pulling up the weapon and then watching where the attachments would go and swapping out is really cool.
Very cool. I cannot wait to get that in my hands. Now, there was a lot of other things discussed on this show, but I don't want to have a clip for everything because the video will be 10 hours long. So for SEL, sometimes we're going to just do like little quick shots of the information that was shared, but no clips that come with it. So basically, ship-to-ship spawning will not be in 3.9. Ship duplication bugs, if you're still having them, keep reporting them because it should just be a hotfix for them to fix. It's not required to have a patch in order to do it. Physical inventories are a no for 3.9 because iCache is needed. and we did talk a little bit about where iCache stands at the moment. Friends lists are going to be unified, as we discussed a little bit earlier. Increased player count is a no for 3.9, as the server frame rate is still bad. Food courts and bars will be working in 3.9. You cannot store food on ships in 3.9, no, but you can store it on your person. And there's not going to be any difference between planet dark sides and light sides in temperature, but it is a planned feature in the future. Moving on to miscellaneous updates, there was a Planet Tech thread where the devs discussed a little bit more about Planet Tech and some answered some questions about it. So if you're interested in that, check out that thread. There was a griefing and stream sniping thread as well. We did a answer the call about that yesterday. So feel free to check that out, guys, if you're interested in that discussion at all. I'm going to touch on it very lightly here. If you're not willing to watch a 2-hour video, I understand. So I'm going to give you my general thoughts on griefing and stream sniping. These are very minor issues. They are issues. Stream sniping is not cool, but it's not something that you can really prevent. If you're a streamer, you're streaming your location. Star Citizen really has unique locations, so it's very obvious where you are, whether you hide things or anything like that. Putting a stream delay up is not an option for a streamer, especially not one like myself that loves discussing things with his chat. A stream delay is more for tournaments and things like that to prevent from being abused, because in general, the people who are streaming are not interacting with their chats. Now, the issue here is not stream sniping or necessarily griefing in my mind. It's more of an issue of the game. The game it's heavily weighted on one side. It's heavily weighted on the side of the stream sniper or the griefer, in the sense that you have no ability to avoid missiles at this point. You have no ability to avoid an extremely broken mass driver build with auto gimbals on. You have no ability to really run from a fight as someone who might be flying in a prospector or something like that. Not saying that it should be easy. A economy player should not have an easy time trying to get away from a PvPer. It should be very difficult, but it should be possible. So for me, this is not really a Twitch issue, not really a griefing issue. It's a game issue. This game, and I hate to say it because I hate when people tell me you shouldn't be upset it's an alpha, because I'm kind of saying that in return. The game is an alpha. It is not in a state where it's meant to be played as a game. It just isn't. We are so far away from having a true game here that these discussions and all the hate that is coming from the community towards streamers, and I think most of the streamers I talk to, we all support PvP. I am of the idea that PvP should be central in Star Citizen. It starts with combat and branches out from there into the economy and into those things. While the economy is a huge part of Star Citizen, it's more of like a Venn diagram where they should cross each other at some point. It's one of those things that they come hand in hand. I don't want to fly around in a cargo ship where the only fear that I have is a server crash. That's a boring game. That's a crappy game. That's not what I want. I want the fear of loss. But what does the PvPer lose if he dies? 200 credits on his quick insurance claim? What do I lose? Hundreds of thousands of credits. It's not balanced, right? There's so much imbalance, like I mentioned earlier, with just in general in combat, but then just the whole way the game is made at this point is completely out of balance because it's not a game. It's not ready to be played. So it's just one of those things where I really want to park this discussion. I don't necessarily want to have it anymore because it's not time for it. Am I getting stream sniped occasionally? Sure. Is it a pain in the ass? Yes, it fucking sucks. But it's not something that CIG banning people for. That's not going to solve the problem. The problem has to be solved by CIG by making the game good. Now, that might require time. There might be priorities like your chocolate bar wrapper coming off and it looking really nice and high fidelity. But the most important thing about this discussion is that it's a game issue. It's not a people issue. It's not a stream sniping issue. It's not a Twitch issue. It's a game issue. And it might take CIG some time to get to it. I hope it becomes more of a priority through this discussion, but it's a game issue, guys. And with that, I'm going to leave it there. I took a lot of, not abuse this week, but a lot of misguided aggression towards me as a streamer and towards other streamers, where I think a lot of us are on your side, PvPers. We want it just as much as you do, even if you're someone like me that wants to play the economy. So, guys, we're going to leave that video here. Leave a like if you like the video. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought about anything that we discussed here, and subscribe for more videos in the future. And I'm going to edit this video and go to bed. I am sleepy, but again, it will get probably posted tomorrow morning. So we'll catch you guys later. Have a great one. See you next time.